It's a cold day here in Ottawa, and how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in my nice, cozy little room. So, yeah, I'm doing good.
So I wanted to interview you because I think what you do is pretty cool and very interesting, and I have a lot of questions that I want to ask. First and foremost, tell us about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, I am an energy healer and a herbalist. The long story? Do you want the long story?
Sure.
Okay, the long story is when I was about 24, I was really sick, and I was on life supports for about 6 weeks. And then when I got out of the hospital, I was very thin and I could hardly walk. And this had happened in Asia. And I ended up back in Vancouver, and I was told to recover to eat meat. That was the plan. And I thought to myself, there must be more I can do. So I went to the health food store. And
Were you a vegetarian or?
no, I wasn't necessarily. I've always had a tendency towards vegetarianism, but it was just kind of like, you're 85 pounds, you can hardly walk, your skin is peeling because you're so malnourished, and they say eat meat, and my digestive system hadn't actually really worked for 2 months. So it's kind of like it didn't fit, It was like, there must be something else I can do to help regain my strength. Not that I was opposed to eating meat, it's just that there must be something else. So I went to the health food store, and the woman was so kind, and she ended up with all these plastic bottles with capsules, and she added it all up, and it was about $800. And I had no money, and I was in a strange city, so clearly that medicine wasn't going to work. The medical system had nothing to offer me either. So that really was the beginning of my journey as a healer, and I discovered I could do energy work because I had begun meditating, and with the meditation practice I do, it turned on the ability to move energy with my hands and to read energy, and then the herbs came along because I felt they really are medicine that is available to everybody and can be completely accessible with just a little bit of guidance. And yes, it's really medicine for the people, so.
Now, when you mentioned you were on life support for 6 weeks.
Yep.
May I ask what happened? Were you sick? Obviously, you were sick, but what's the story behind that?
So
if you don't mind me asking.
I was traveling in Southeast Asia. I was backpacking. I'd been backpacking for about 8 months, and I picked up malaria, cerebral malaria. And I was in Vietnam when I got sick, although I'm pretty sure I picked up the malaria in Thailand. And I was in the Cambodian embassy trying to get a visa to go to Cambodia to see Angkor Wat. And that's where I got sick instantaneously. And there was a group of first aid or Red Cross workers, and they told me, oh, you have malaria, go to the hospital, they'll give you the medicine and you'll be able to travel in 3 days or so. So I went to the hospital, which was a very unpleasant experience, and they told me I had the flu.
Wow.
And that I should go home and rest, and I'd be up and at 'em in about 7 days. And about 5 days later, I was in full hallucinations and fevers, and anyways, so wow. Yeah. But I, by grace, I ended up in Singapore, and Singapore has an excellent medical system, and they took very good care of me, and here I am today because of what happened in Singapore. So.
Now, when you say you're an energy healer, and obviously you are. There's a lot of people who might not understand energy healing. Can you explain the You're giving me a funny look. Can you explain what is energy healing?
Yeah.
That was a funny expression.
Yeah, what is it? Energy healing. Okay, so I in some ways it's love, like really just letting love pass through your hands and being sensitive to what you can feel around you and open to what you can feel around you. And I personally believe we are all energy healers. I don't think it's a particularly unique gift. I just think that some people are more open to it than others. A lot of people that I teach, because I teach energy healing, one of the big obstacles I always feel we have to overcome is the idea that feeling energy is weird, or that it's far out, or that it's something really extraordinary. I think it's a very ordinary thing that human beings can do. It's just that, as can cats and dogs, possibly birds, I don't know, plants. It's just, we just have to be open to it and let it be ordinary. Let it be part of our ordinary life. And
how do you deal with students who may get, as you described, who may think it's weird or whatever? It's that student that can't tap into themselves. How do you deal with those people? How would you teach them?
Well, I think the first question you always have to ask is, why is the person having a hard time tapping into themselves? Like, what is the belief system, or what is the fear? It's an unusual way to live. It's in our world, in some societies and cultures, it's not unusual at all. And it's not unusual at all, but in our society, it's very material based. So, what we can see, what we can measure, that is what reality is. But reality has many levels to it. And so I think the best approach to helping people kind of open up to the experience of energy, for lack of a better word, is just to be gentle and to guide them to feel it, to have an experience. Another thing I always like to say is people tend to compare themselves to others when it comes to energy, and they think, oh, that person's having that experience and I'm not, and therefore, but we all have, I call it the language in our hands. So it's like understanding the language of your hands. And some people are very visual, and their hands, it's almost like their hands can see things, and they can see things and they work that way. Some people it's all tactile, and they can feel things with their hands, but it's learning when you feel heat, or when you feel cold, or you feel something prickly, or you feel an emotion. A lot of energy work is working with emotion, and there needs to be a kind of equanimity with emotion. So if you feel anger or fear, and in someone it's like, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. How are you doing? Are you feeling this fear too? And then if someone says no, they might be a little detached from their experience. So you just bring them gently into the fear, and you teach them how to just be with that part of themselves, and how to take care of that part of themselves. And so to be an energy worker means that there has to be a certain amount of awareness of one's own responses to emotions or feelings or outside of the box experiences. but the most important thing is just to be ordinary with it. It's not something far out and crazy. It's
How do so it's a lot of intuition to a certain degree.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, intuition is I kind of
And I ask that because you're saying that everyone has the ability and the skill.
I believe
Right.
we all do.
Right.
Maybe to different levels, or also with different types. Like we might have different languages, or we might experience something with a different, like some people might smell things, some people might hear things,
Sure.
you know. And some people just know things, you know. So it's really learning what that language is in you and trusting it. And yeah, so intuition for me is a pattern recognition more so than anything else. It's not so much some sort of mysterious thing that women have, women's intuition. It's a form of pattern recognition. So when you're doing healing work, any kind of healing work, whether it's energy or herbal work or acupuncture, it doesn't matter. You're looking for patterns of illness and patterns of health. And so when you're feeling an energy field, and so we'll talk about fear, and you're feeling fear, it's going to be the same energy signature no matter who it is. So you just you're feeling these different kind of patterns, and it's learning to name those patterns with as much clarity as possible and open-heartedness, and not respond to them in a quick way, but just sort of a gentle, persistent kindness, and they lift, or insight arises. But when you have someone on the table, the most important person's experience is the person on the table. It's not in my experience, in my preferred way of working, is the person on the table. Their experience is the most important experience, not my experience as an energy worker. I'm fairly sensitive, and I've worked with different energy workers, and I've had energy workers really tell me what my experience is, and I'm thinking,
What do you mean? Like they're
they'll say, oh, this is what's going on with you, and da 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 da, and they'll tell me my whole experience, and I'll be looking at them like, this isn't really my experience. I think you're working through your lens and seeing me, right? Because we're always looking through our own personal lens. So when I have someone on the table, I always make sure that I encourage them to see through their lens, to understand their experience, and to find language and solution that works for them, as opposed to me being the person who is defining the experience, right? Like the person on the table should be defining the experience.
Now, you mentioned fear as a frequency that you can sense, and that signature is common across different bodies. And now, is that the most common fear, or is that the most common frequency that you generally pick up? No. Would you say no?
No, all sorts. Anger, grief. I feel a lot of grief in people. A lot of grief. There's a lot of sadness in the world right now, so there's a lot of grief.
Now, I just want to ask, as an energy worker, you're dealing with so many emotions and so many personalities and so many energies. How do you keep balanced and not get overwhelmed in that dance? Because it almost seems like you're. I'm just speaking out loud here. It's almost like you're sensing. The sadness.
You're entering into different people's energy fields.
Right. And does it ever get overwhelming when you go home? Do you ever find yourself
well, I have a lot of I believe. Okay, so first of all is although I work in healing, I don't do the healing. the body, mind, spirit complex of the person does it. I'm not doing it. Whatever is inside that person, it knows how to heal. And I have 100% faith in that. I'm mostly a witness. And I'm mostly a person who can help find names for experiences that confuse people. And I strongly believe that we're all responsible for our own healing, that we all have the capacity to do that. And it's not up to me to do healing for someone else. It's their right to have their process. So if I'm walking away and taking something and feeling like I have to take care of something for someone, I feel like that is disempowering to them. I believe that probably the best thing I can do for any one person is to teach them how to understand their body and understand the language of their body, whether it is figuring out what a dose is in herbal medicine to understanding an emotional pattern and how it shifts and changes in the body. To give someone the right to know and understand and experience their body and the healing that is contained, the natural health that's present at all times, as long as you're, walking around, there's health, then that belongs to them. It doesn't belong to me. I have my own work to do. I don't. So I'm really clear about that, and I'm really clear in the ability of the body, mind to heal, and that, so I don't really, some people, they have sad things happen to them, and I wish them well, and I'll, send them good thoughts and that, but I don't think it helps anyone to worry about them. I think it helps people more to see their strength.
So in doing in engaging in energy work, do you find who are the people that come seek an energy healing? What sort of personalities and
all sorts of people. Yeah, a lot of different types of people. Mostly quite ordinary people, post office workers, real estate agents, economists.
How do they find out about an energy healing as a healing modality or as a treatment?
I don't actually really know. Where I work at Ottawa Holistics, there's a couple of energy workers here, and so I think this group of people, we have a fairly good reputation in town, and so people come here and for different types of healing. So I think that's one way people find out. People hear their friends talk about it, so then they seek it out. I don't know. It's kind of just how it happens, but that's that same kind of, for me, that's that same thing. If someone is looking for help, they'll find the help that they're looking for. And it's very mysterious how that happens, but it comes. And yeah.
Have you ever had anyone come to kind of to a Reiki treatment to kind of almost challenge it?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a story about that.
Tell us a story about that?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Well, I have this one guy I've been working with for a while, and I really, really like him, and he's had a hard go of it, and he's got some fairly significant health issues. And part of the challenge is he just has forgotten how to relax. And when we're in a state of relaxation, that is the place where the healing occurs. So we talk about sleep as healing time, but also sometimes just sitting around having a nice time with your friends and really relaxed, not on your phone, just present and enjoying yourself. That can also be a very healing time. So relaxation is very important. And he, in conversation, we decided that he has completely forgotten how to relax and he wasn't sleeping and da da da. So I said to him, why don't you come do some energy work with me? And he's like, oh, all that hocus pocus stuff. I don't know, I've been online, and I'm like going, oh yeah, okay. So Dr. Google, I know Dr. Google has lots of opinions on this, but just come and let's
try it.
Try it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's, then it's all the money, blah blah blah. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. You don't have to pay me unless you find it helps you. And if you pay me, then I'll know you have found it valuable. So he's like, okay. And I'm like, so then I'm kind of like teasing him. So I'm pretty confident, eh? And he's like, yeah, you're pretty confident in this, but we'll see, So anyways, he comes back and anyways, I didn't really do a lot of energy work with him. What I did mostly was I just took him into deep relaxation and I showed him how to do that. Like, this is how you do this. Like, let's go through this step by step. And he went into a state of deep relaxation and he got off the table and he's like, oh, I feel so good. And so he paid me, right? So that's what I do. I just tell people, like, if you don't find it of value, don't pay me.
Now, when you're teaching, you teach here, you teach Reiki and so on. Can you lead us through kind of the process that you teach people?
The process that I teach people?
The process, the curriculum, your approach.
Okay, so
what
my
can
approach.
one expect? Okay,
so first of all, my training is diverse, right?
Right.
So I am a Reiki master, and I do the attunements to the symbols. But I also studied for a couple of years with a Sami shaman, so I have this whole teaching that he gave me that I use a lot on the table. And then I also have been meditating in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition for 30 years. And so that practice also very much informs how I approach the table and the person I'm working with. And then there's a few other things that I've picked up along the way, talking to different people and having friends that are healers, and they show me things and teach me things. And then things I just kind of learn, right? So my curriculum really is, my goal for it isn't to turn out a bunch of Reiki masters. My goal is for people to have confidence in their ability, in their hands, in their ability to read energy, feel energy, and respond to it in a meaningful way that's beneficial for both themselves and the person that they're working with. That is my goal. That's all my goal is. And I use the Reiki symbols clearly because they have enormous value. But I also will work with a lot of aura work. Helping people build a good, strong aura is so important because that's all about boundaries. It's part of our immune system. It's part of our ability to make good decisions that are good for ourselves and not be caught up in other people's belief systems and swept away. I do a whole series of teaching on the chakras. But my experience with the chakras is from a few different traditions, so not the traditional yoga tradition that's mostly taught today. So I work with animals in the chakras. I also work with different colors and different vibrations. So I do a lot of that work too. What else do? We do the symbols. I have a healing song that I often share with my students that was gifted to me many years ago, and I find that a very powerful song to use. And there's a curriculum, but there's also responding to the people. So right now I have a couple of students, and one of the things they're concerned about is ghosts. So we're talking about how to clear space and
as in they've witnessed or experienced
experiencing ghosts or being in a haunted house, a house that has a ghost. So
spirit.
How do you take care of that? And but for me,
how would you take care of that?
Well, it's all very ordinary, right? Like, that's the first thing that's very important is it's just ordinary. It's not weird. It's not creepy. It's not far out. Because if we approach helping a ghost or calming down a ghost or however you want to talk about that, with that sense of, oh, this is really weird, this is really creepy, this is then
fear.
Yeah. Then you can't do anything, right? You have to kind of just be present. Like, it's like if you're talking to your friend and you start calling your friend weird and creepy and all this, like, they're not going to tell you anything personal, and you want to enter into a dialogue with this ghost and to encourage it to go to a better place, right? So that's what I do. So with that, I use mantras that I've been taught. I use mantra and sound. I have a bell I use, and sometimes I burn like some plant material. Depends, and different plant material. Like I might use the sage. I usually use mugwort because that's the plant that grows naturally around here. Some water. I usually use water too. Like I sprinkle some water about, and that helps. But yeah, you have to be pretty persistent though, like at it. So yeah.
We're persistent in terms of the
you have to do it over a period of time, right? Like depending on how long it's been there, and
right,
how much it wants to be there. The other thing too is like when if you're asking that energy formation to move, then you also have to ask for what you want to come in. So first you like clear, and then you bring in, and that's one of the basic principles of energy healing, whether you're doing a room, a building, or someone on the table. If you take something out, then you put something back in.
What do you get out of like you've been doing this your entire life, and you seem very, very calm and very relaxed. What does energy healing mean for you personally? Well, what does it do for you personally?
Well, it feels good to help someone, that's for sure.
Actually, what I'm trying to ask is, how has energy healing shaped your perception and perspective of the world around you?
Well, I don't really know what's going on.
What do you mean?
That's the bottom line, right? Like, so, like just that curiosity, like what's actually happening here, like, I don't know, like, so, you go out and sit in the woods and you just kind of open up and vibe with what's going on. And all of a sudden, stuff happens, right? And it's curious. And I don't know. I'm not like, I'm just a witness mostly. And so it's interesting. Yeah. Mostly that's what it's, and not to be frightened, not to be frightened of things I can't see or things I don't really have a good name for, something that I can't kind of corral into a box, not to be frightened, to be curious and open and, and loving. And, that's the other side of it is like the flowing love, right? Like there's like, so this is how I see this planet. I see there's different levels of vibration of different emotional energies. Like emotional energy is like a vibration. That's how I read it. So there's different levels of emotional vibration. And there's this huge, around this planet, there's this huge vibration of love. Like huge. Like there's so much love going on. Like, you know, like, well, you have a kid, you know, now, and all that love play that goes on and the joy and the laughter. And just think in most houses that is happening, and it's just ordinary stuff. It's there's nothing, and it has all sorts of different expressions. It might be, you know, getting up for your partner so she doesn't have to get up, you know. It's a really simple expression of love and care for another human being or another living thing. So I see, so I'd rather be tuned into that vibe, that vibration on this planet than the confusion or the, you know, the greed or right. So so energy work has helped me kind of really trust that place. Even though we lived in a really weird, crazy world right now, there's still this loving vibration always present. And so to be able to access that space, like yesterday I was getting my winter tires on and I was standing in the garage and I had the mechanic or the mechanic's helper, I don't know who he was, anyways, change my windshield wipers too, because I can't change windshield wipers. So
neither can I. So
and I know I don't know how they work. Anyway, so I was standing there and at the counter and he was like kind of having a hard time getting online or whatever. And I was looking out at the snow falling and I was just like this place of bliss, you know, just, oh my God, look at, and I could just feel how these two guys, they work together day and they really like each other and they make all these jokes and they really, and you know, this guy, he was really trying to do his best by me, got by fixing my windshield wipers out in the snow, even though he didn't have to, you know.
Right.
And so it's just like, yeah, like, look at this. This is like, that's as real.
Right.
You know?
A simple moment.
A simple moment. And it was full of love, you know. Because I decided, like I consciously decided, oh, let's just open up to this moment as full as I can. And that's all I received back was this experience of love, you know.
What do you think of Ottawa as in terms of a city and its energy and its people? And I ask that because sometimes, not sometimes, but when we're talking generally about energy, some people say, oh, the vibe there is kind of negative, there being wherever and or positive. What's your opinion of this city and its energy? Sorry, I know that's a very general.
And I'm thinking I'm from Toronto. You know?
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, well, comparing.
So first of all, like one of the things that I had once, I was driving because I live over across the river, right? And so coming into town, I come up Wellington, so I come up seeing the Parliament buildings. And one time I was coming across the bridge and up Wellington, and I just had this overwhelming experience of like power and searching for power coming off the Parliament buildings.
Wow.
So you have this big power place, right? Like where people are really interested in power. And, you know, that could be good or it could be bad because, you know, to be able to change the world for the good, like, you know, Justin Trudeau legalizing cannabis, I really do think that was a good thing to do. And he took power to create something positive for Canadians, you know. So it's really how we use it. It's not, but there's this sense of, I don't know, intensity up there on that hill. And
did you see a color? Did you see?
No, I just could feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think, you know, it's always the perception. Like it's our perception. Like, so one person can experience something as really bad, and another person can perceive it as really good, and another person can see it really neutral. So when I'm feeling something, I try to be in neutral. Like I try to
be objective and
like stay in neutral, like just have that experience, like, so, and then you can, interacting with the street person and have a incredible exchange of positivity, even though from my perspective they're living a incredibly difficult life, but there's an enormous giving heart that comes back to me from that person, whereas other people might just see that person and cringe and they shouldn't be there, and they, what have they done to get themselves to that place, and so I think it's always the person who's perceiving it. That's what I think. I don't, clearly there's problems, but
how do you keep that objectivity? Like, how do you, I
live in a forest.
Do you? Okay, there you go. Is it important for you to live with nature?
Yeah, it's really important.
Does that keep you balanced?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. It's really important for me to be around trees. Do you want to hear something really weird?
Sure.
Yeah, so where was I? What was I reading? Something the other day, and that I think it was in something about traditional Chinese medicine, and that the symbol for the human is a tree, because the human is between heaven and earth and is the channel for the energies of the heavens to come down and bless the earth, and the loving, generous nature of the earth comes up through the human to go back to the heavens, So we're like a channel, and trees clearly are channels, right? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about, like, what would that experience be like to be a tree, just really rooted and settled and open. And the tree is for me, a really important symbol in energy healing, because I often ask my students to imagine their trees, because of that sense of the nourishment of the earth coming up and the blessings of the heavens coming down, and that we're a channel for that flow. I think it's a really important symbol.
What do your students and people who come to your training, what do they tell you after they go through some training? What's the funniest thing?
What's the
funniest thing that, like, you laugh at and, like, shake your head? And
well, I have this one right now that she's really a really kind-hearted individual, and I think she's quite talented, but for some reason she can't get to the other side of weird. She'll go like, "Oh, that's so weird," and I'm going, "No, it's ordinary." So I guess that's why I keep talking about it, because I've been working a lot with her. So yeah, they're funny guys. Or when they first feel the energy, because I do teach feeling the energy through the aura, and so from like really close to the body to like an arm length from the body, and when people are first feeling those layers of the energy field, they're always like really like gasp. They can't believe they can actually feel those things. And it's just fun watching people discover who they are, like whole new layers of who they are and what they're capable of. And
where can we find out about your training seminars, your workshops?
Where can you? Well, here at Ottawa Holistics, you can find them about here. You can also, I usually publish them on my website. So, abrahherbs.com. And then I have another one, Energy Healing Ottawa. So those are a couple of websites that I do. I'm really busy right now, so my websites aren't always up to date, or you can just call me and ask me. Although I don't really answer my phone very much. You can email me.
What's your email?
Abrah.Arneson@gmail.com.
Do you want to spell that out maybe?
Abrah is ABRAH.Arneson, ARNESON @gmail.com. So, or just Google me. You'll find me.
I'll be adding that contact info in this episode here.
Thanks.
Just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
And thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.